The emperor was about to run. Constantinople was burning. Tens of thousands of rioters had taken the streets. A rival emperor had been proclaimed in the Hippodrome. The fires had been going for days. Justinian, master of the Eastern Roman Empire, the most powerful man in the known world, had his bags packed and a ship waiting in the harbor. His wife stopped him. Empress Theodora stood in front of her terrified husband and said something that has echoed through history ever since. Imperial purple, she told him, makes a fine burial shroud. She was not leaving, and if he left, he was no longer the emperor she had married. Justinian stayed. Then he sent for his general. Drawn from history. Belisarius was born around 500 AD on the Balkan frontier. Thrace, most likely, a region shaped not by marble forums and senatorial philosophy, but by fortresses and the constant threat of invasion. The frontier was Rome's shield and its wound simultaneously. It was struck repeatedly by Goths, Huns, Slavs, anyone with the strength and ambition to press against the empire's edges. He did not come from the old Roman aristocracy, no famous family name, no senator grandfather. He came from the border, where survival depended on preparation and force and the ability to make quick decisions under pressure. That background would define everything he did afterward. He entered imperial service as a young man, working his way into the elite units attached to the emperor himself. Not a glamorous path, but it placed him close to power, close to the machinery of command, close to the one man whose ambitions would eventually change the shape of the ancient world. Justinian noticed him almost immediately. The emperor dreamed of restoration. He believed the Roman Empire could be rebuilt, its lost western provinces reclaimed, its authority reasserted across the Mediterranean. The Western Empire had collapsed in 476, its territories carved up by the Vandals in North Africa, the Visigoths in Spain, the Ostrogoths in Italy. Justinian intended to take it all back. For that, he needed a general who could win wars the empire could barely afford to fight. Belisarius was that man. His first real test came in the east, against Persia, Rome's ancient rival, perpetually dangerous, perpetually probing for weakness along the empire's eastern frontier. In 530 AD, near the fortress city of Dara in Mesopotamia, Belisarius faced a Persian army significantly larger than his own. He didn't retreat. He didn't charge blindly forward either. He prepared the battlefield. He ordered trenches dug in careful geometric patterns in front of his lines, funneling the Persian cavalry into corridors where their numbers became a disadvantage rather than an asset. He positioned his own cavalry on concealed flanks. He anchored the infantry in defensive formation and waited. The Persians came in, confident of their numbers. They hit prepared defenses. They were funneled exactly where Belisarius needed them, and at the precise moment their attack began to stall, he unleashed his flanking cavalry. The Persian line shattered. Rome had not merely survived. It had outthought and outfought one of the greatest military powers in the ancient world, and done it with a smaller force. That was Belisarius's signature. He would repeat this pattern. Fewer men, better thinking, better terrain, better timing, across 3 continents for the next 3 decades. Back to Constantinople, back to the burning city. When Justinian finally decided to act against the Nika rioters, he turned to Belisarius. With a small force of loyal soldiers, the general entered the Hippodrome, where tens of thousands of rebels had gathered, sealed the exits, and ordered his men forward. By the end of the day, more than 30,000 people were dead. Brutal, absolute, effective. It was a massacre that saved the throne and preserved the empire. And from that day forward, Belisarius was not merely a capable general. He was the man Justinian trusted with his survival. That trust would be used, and eventually, quietly, destroyed. In 533 AD, Justinian sent Belisarius to North Africa with roughly 15,000 men. His target was the Vandal Kingdom, wealthy, entrenched, in control of some of the richest provinces the old Roman world had ever produced. The Vandals had been there for decades. They were comfortable. They had stopped being afraid. Belisarius landed and immediately did something that confused his enemy, and won over the local population simultaneously. He enforced iron discipline: no looting, no burning, no mistreatment of civilians. Any soldier who stole from a local was punished visibly and publicly. This wasn't mercy, it was strategy. The Roman population of North Africa had been living under Vandal rule for a generation. They hadn't forgotten who they were. When Belisarius arrived presenting himself as a liberator rather than a conqueror, they opened doors instead of closing them. At the Battle of Decimum outside Carthage, the Vandal forces nearly destroyed his army through a coordinated attack from multiple directions. Confusion spread through the Roman lines. For a moment, it looked like the campaign was over before it had properly started. Belisarius held. He rallied the scattered units personally, counterattacked at the exact moment the Vandals failed to press their advantage, and turned what should have been a defeat into a decisive Roman victory. Weeks later, at Tricamarum, the remaining Vandal army was crushed. Within less than a year of landing, the Vandal Kingdom was gone. An entire kingdom, toppled in months, by a force that had no business winning. Italy was next. The Ostrogoths had controlled the Italian peninsula since the late 400s. They were formidable, militarily capable, well-organized, occupying the symbolic heartland of the old Roman world. Taking it back was the most audacious thing Justinian had ever proposed. Belisarius started with Sicily, securing it almost without resistance. Then he crossed to the mainland, took Naples through a stunning piece of improvisation, sneaking soldiers through a forgotten, dried-up aqueduct that ran under the city walls, and in December 536 marched into Rome. Rome was Roman again, for the first time in 60 years. Holding it was another matter entirely. The Ostrogoth king, Vitiges, assembled a massive army and laid siege to the city. Belisarius was outnumbered dramatically. His garrison was thin. The walls were ancient and crumbling in places. His supply lines were stretched and unreliable. What followed was over a year of siege warfare that became one of the most studied military campaigns in history. Belisarius refused to simply hunker down and absorb punishment. He launched constant, lightning-fast cavalry raids against the Gothic camps, hitting supply convoys, disrupting formations, killing soldiers, and vanishing before the enemy could organize a response. He rotated his units to prevent exhaustion. He managed the civilian population to maintain order inside the walls. When the Goths launched a massive assault with enormous siege towers, Belisarius looked at them and gave a single order: "Don't shoot the soldiers. Kill the oxen." The towers were pulled by animals. Without the animals, the towers stopped. The assault ground to a halt. The Goths had invested enormous effort and resources in an attack that died, because one man understood the simple physics of the problem faster than anyone else in the field. After more than a year, Vitiges gave up the siege and withdrew. Belisarius pushed north. Eventually, he had the Gothic capital of Ravenna surrounded and under siege. The Goths, desperate and out of options, made him an extraordinary offer. They would surrender if Belisarius agreed to become the Western Roman Emperor. He said yes. The gates of Ravenna opened. Belisarius rode in at the head of his cavalry, accepted the surrender, secured the cities, and then declared it captured in the name of Emperor Justinian. He had used their offer against them. The whole thing had been a trap, sprung with perfect composure. The war was over. The campaign was complete, and that is where the story should end triumphantly. It doesn't. Justinian had been watching his general become the most celebrated figure in the empire. Soldiers loved him. Cities celebrated him. The population of Italy had seen his face before they had seen their emperors, and that offer of the Western crown, even though Belisarius had refused it, sat in Justinian's mind like a splinter. He was recalled to Constantinople, then sent out again when new threats appeared, then recalled again, used and sidelined in cycles, each time with slightly less authority, slightly fewer resources, slightly more suspicion hovering over every conversation. In 559 AD, with Bulgar and Slavic forces threatening Constantinople itself, Justinian turned to the aging general one final time. Belisarius, now in his late 50s, long past his campaigns, assembled a small force and drove them back from the capital. His last battle, his last victory, achieved with the same quiet efficiency that had defined his entire career. He died in 565 AD, the same year as Justinian. Later centuries invented a legend about his ending, that Justinian had blinded him and cast him into poverty, that he spent his final days as a beggar in the streets of Constantinople, holding out his hand to the people he had once protected. The legend is probably not true, but legends don't survive for nothing. They survive because they capture something real about the shape of a life, and the shape of this life was unmistakable. A man who gave everything to an empire that never fully trusted him, who won battles it had no right to win, who refused a crown when it was offered, and then was punished anyway for having been offered it. He reconquered North Africa. He held Rome for more than a year against impossible odds. He took Ravenna through an act of psychological brilliance that ended a war without a final battle. He was never fully rewarded. He was never fully trusted. The last great Roman general, born on the frontier with no famous name and no powerful family. Just a mind that turned weakness into strength and kept doing it until the empire ran out of places to send him. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please subscribe and leave a like. You can also write in the comments which historical topics you'd like to see next. See you in the next video.